Jake, don't let me forget to do my laundry after this. Welcome back. Trust the process. Episode 4. We are going to recap week 3. Had some good matchups here, and then review some trades, excitement throughout the week, and get right into week 4 of the NFL season. It is just before Thursday night football here. So before I hand it over to Jake, I just want to say J Rob to the moon. Go ahead, Jake.
Hey, yeah. So last week was a good one in terms of our pick'ems. So we started picking week 2 is when I kind of started recording it. We had Jason on week 1, didn't really like keep track of things, but we'll go over the matchups. So we had me versus Birdo. I took him down. Um, wasn't super close, but I was a little bit concerned. As soon as Rodgers and Devonte Adams started balling out. So it was a little scary, but not too bad. We That was one we split. I had me winning, you had Bordeaux winning. Going into your matchup versus Josh, you took him down. That was a pretty close one too. How did you feel going into that with the
Um,
results?
I kind of knew it was a coin flip before the matchup. The AJ Brown injury really let me down. We were going into Monday Night Football. I think I was ahead by 1 point, and I had Miles Sanders in Monday night, and he had Amari Cooper. I really did not feel good about that. I was like, man, I don't like this. And thankfully, both of them kind of put up duds, and we were able to squeak out a win here. So it hasn't been pretty, but we're 3-0.
Yeah, that one was close. Seeing Cooper versus Sanders, I was almost certain you were not pulling that out
Yeah.
going into Monday night, but it worked out for you. We both got that one correct. Joel versus the All Outlaws. I think we both got that one correct. Nothing really to dive into there. J Rod's really tanking. Sorry about that.
That's a good sign, man. Any fantasy football podcast I've watched, whenever the dogs or someone interrupts in the middle of
Yep.
something, it's always
Yeah.
a good sign. So you're speaking about J Rod in the middle of that. Maybe
Maybe
he's able to
he
tank his way to first overall pick.
for the pick he doesn't own.
I mean, so it's good news for Stubert that those dogs just
Yeah. The power of the corgis. But yeah, no, that one not much to really talk about. Joel took that one over. Um, Najee and the Jets took on Stu's team. He ended up being the highest scorer of the week, beat Stu. That was one that we split on our pick'ems as well. You were rooting for Stu, told not to let you down, and his team kind of let you
let me
down a
down.
little bit.
Yeah. Najee
um,
woke up though. I mean, 118. He wins like 4 out of the 5 matchups this week. This is the Najee and the Jets team that we kind of have expected all year. This week they kind of just popped off.
Yeah, he came to life and quite honestly should have even hit more. Like everyone kind of hit as expected, and Sutton underperformed, especially with all the injuries there. You thought he'd see more targets. But yeah, no, I mean, this is exactly what he was hoping for all along. He's still unfortunately 1-2. So still not looking super great, but a win's a win. He needed that. Puts him in the middle of the pack with everyone. Jason versus Zach. That one again, pretty straightforward. Jason committed to the tank, as we will talk about later with some of his trades. He's definitely not going for it this year. Zach's team continues to just put up points. Um, and then Schneidi versus Broken Step. That one we both had Joe winning. Again, Schneidy's team is kind of looking towards that rebuild as well. So pretty straightforward week for us. Brings us to me being 11-1 on the week or on the season, and you being 9-3 on the pick'em. So got another week ahead of us. Let's hope we keep the ball rolling, doing pretty well there. So
Definitely.
um, I'll keep the next week matchups on the screen, but we have quite a few trades to get into for the week. As soon as Monday's games wrapped up, it was an absolute sling fest on our trades there. Um,
Yeah.
so we'll fire it off with the first one to happen. I have them in just kind of chronological throughout the week how they happen. So it was me and the Lonely Boys, me and Joel's team. I gave him CEH and DJ Chark for Aaron Jones and Chuba Hubbard. Um, I made the move as soon as I saw he was looking to get rid of Aaron Jones. I knew he wanted Chark back a while ago, after he gave him to me last season, and I knew I just had to kind of put something together. I don't have the utmost faith in CEH, but he is still a nice young talent. And Aaron Jones just solidifies that win now. And coincidentally, I got CMC's backup, which will help me currently as well too. So pretty good move, I would say. I lost a little bit of my depth and my youth, but in return, I now have 3 top 10 backs. So
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, that was the Monday before week three's games, right? So you
when
got Chuba Hubbard before CMC went down?
no, that because CMC just went down, didn't he?
It was this week he went down.
Yep.
I guess no,
And
because we would have covered it on the previous podcast if
yep,
that was
yep,
the case. Yep.
yep, happened right after. So yeah, definitely just a move where I saw like a position where I had something, asset wise. I don't have a lot that I want to give up. So I knew I could package a couple of things together and do it. And it's probably the last big splash move I'll make all year. Maybe a couple
Yeah.
little ones here or there, but definitely just solidify the win now.
Yeah, not a bad trade for either of you guys there. I think about it like you gave up 2 50-cent pieces for $1, right? And you
Yep.
need dollars right now. Like you need one guy you can throw out there and he can go get you 40 points. You don't need you 2 guys to get you 15 or something like that. Chuba Hubbard, kind of just a throw in and it works out for you. Safe little handcuff. I don't think it's anything crazy there. Nothing super valuable, but definitely will fill a hole for you while CMC's out. So can't complain by any means. Joel gets a little bit younger, gets some guys he likes. He wasn't going to win it this year anyway, so you might as well sell your best guys at their highest value. So works out for both of you.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like one of those things fit like a glove. It worked out for both teams. We got what we wanted. And like you said, you walk away from a trade where you can't really see who clearly won it. It's got to be a good trade. And that's kind of how I felt about it, given our positions. Next one we're going to go into is Jason, who really kind of committed to where his team's heading. He gets Jerry Judy, Irv Smith, a 2023 and 2024 first rounder. Bordeaux sent that all to him in return for Valdez Scantling, Hawkinson, and a 2024 second rounder. What are your thoughts on that one?
Man, what a win for Jason on that trade for one. I don't know, whatever negotiating skills he used during this trade, he needed those during the DK Metcalf trade. Because he just got more for Hawkinson than he did for Metcalf, which I understand there's positional scarcity. He's a good young tight end, all of that fine stuff. But no one on planet Earth is valuing TJ Hawkinson higher in overall ADP or more valuable at all than DK Metcalf. So this to me, great win for Jason, but it highlights how bad he did on DK Metcalf at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's nice. Jason did get a ton of assets there. He's got a couple guys who, if the injuries weren't here, we could definitely see him in a different light. Irv Smith was supposed to kind of be the breakout when they let Rudolph go. Jerry Judy is supposed to come out, be a stud for Denver. Still both could definitely come into play. They can return to full health. None of their injuries are that scary. Giving up Hawkinson for what he got is totally worth it, but giving up that talent was a little scary to me, just to get rid of somebody so sure in his target share and what he's going to bring to your team every week. But no, super great move for him. And yeah, it does highlight how poorly he did for Metcalf, definitely. Now we're getting into the move you made. You made a pretty big splash move. So you ended up getting Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper, Mark Andrews, Josh, the 4-string running backs. In return got Brian Edwards, Terrence Marshall. Is it Kendrick Osborne? Is that who that is?
KJ Osborne is
KJ Osborne. Yep. He got a 2022 first rounder and 2 2022 second rounders. I'm gonna just let you unpack this one. What kind of brought that all together after he announced his fire sale?
Yeah, it caught me by surprise, to be honest. Like I said, we were pretty much tied going into Monday Night Football. I had a small edge on him, like a point. We both had duds, and he lost to put him at 2-1 on the year. I mean, he's one more like good Amari Cooper catch or good Amari Cooper play away from winning and being 3-0. So while he can rebuild, right? You can manage your team however you want. It was surprising to me that he went fire sale right away. I did think back though, after the fact that we said before week 3, we're like, man, there's some close matchups. We're gonna find out a lot this week on who's going what direction, and he wasted zero time. He woke up Tuesday morning, saw he lost, and said everyone's for sale except for Kyler Murray. So
Yeah, no, he came out with a bang too. He just kind of threw it out there, and I mean, I know I threw a few trades that didn't stick at him. Obviously, I didn't have the tools and things he needed to move forward, but he got a pretty good haul. I mean, my only concern is I don't think next year's draft class is super deep. He's got a ton of picks for it.
yeah,
But you know, he really does only need to hit one or two of those diamonds in the rough, and he'll be back on track in a year or two, no problem. For you, it gives you that pivot towards kind of win now, in my opinion. Is that kind of
mhm.
your move there? You said last week, I believe it was, you had to really decide pretty soon here what you were doing. Is that what we're going for?
Yeah, and that's sort of how this came about. Originally, right when he said he was on a fire sale, I think about 3 minutes later, I sent him a trade for just Amari Cooper and Calvin Ridley. He said he was going to kind of sit on it all day, and then at night he was going to kind of make a decision. Well, in the afternoon, I knew my offer was the best offer because he hadn't declined it yet. He said he was declining any offer that there was already better ones. So I knew I had the best offer, and I said, you know what? If I'm going to commit to going for Amari Cooper and Calvin Ridley, I might as well just go for Mark Andrews and go definite win now situation. I didn't want to get those two and then have Kyle Pitts hold me back or something like that.
Mhm.
So I said, you know what? I have to do a package here. He did want to split them up still and do 2 deals, but like I said, I did not want to get caught in the middle. Um, so I gave up a lot of pieces for it, but it's all pieces I was very comfortable with. One first round pick, and it should probably be a later first round pick from Najee and the Jets. Um, a couple of prospects who I definitely love. I mean, I liked all three of those guys, to be honest. But when you have the opportunity to go get a top 15 player at their position, you got to do it. And I think some of the reason why I was able to get this, what I would call cheap, because I didn't have to give up anything super great, is because the other people in win now mode have already did all their win now moves. They don't have anything left. Like you said, you don't have any more players to make a splash trade for this year. Neither does Bordeaux. Stu could if he really wanted to. Zach could if he really wanted to, but I don't see those guys doing it. So I felt like I was the only one with superpower, the superpower to go and get a guy, and I got to get him at a discount because there wasn't anyone else really.
Yeah, no, I think it was a great move, especially knowing what you were headed for. I don't think you gave up too much at all. Like you said, those young pieces you had are nice young pieces. I mean, if
Mhm.
I was trying to get something for the future, those are all wide receivers I would want on my team, on my bench, growing,
Yeah.
developing, and you know, in a couple of years, as you know, one of them is a stud, and that trade's worth it to him. So
Yep.
at the end of the day, that was a really good move. Um, Going into the next trade was another one I made just to give me some depth for this year. I ended up picking up OBJ from Josh, went for one of his older wide receivers. I did give up Elijah Mitchell, who I spent all that fab on, a 2022 fourth rounder and a 2023 second rounder. He said he wanted picks. I sent him some picks. OBJ hasn't done much to prove he's really worth a spot, but coming back healthy, seeing what I saw last week, I figured, you know, if OBJ can get back to 80% of who OBJ is, he'll be useful on my team, especially a win now team.
Yeah.
So I just kind of I rolled the dice and went for it. So what do you
Yeah.
kind of think of that?
I like it. This is what a win now team should do. This is how you build your bench for win now, right? I know Jarvis Landry's on IR, OBJ is coming back. I mean, second half of the season, who knows what's out there? If Landry gets re-injured or something like that, you could have a guy who's seen 10 to 12 targets a game in a high-powered offense. Um, I think it makes good sense for both of you. Elijah Mitchell, I think, is super overrated. I know at the time he was kind of the hot pick. So giving up that guy some picks, I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why I rolled him out there for him. Elijah Mitchell is somebody who picking him up is he's gonna have a role in that offense, which is great. But just like I said, when I spent all that fab, he's still in a Shanahan offense that likes to spread it around.
Yeah.
there's never been a true RB1 coming out of a backfield of his. They have a few weeks at a time. If he can have some value, he can prove himself, get a deal somewhere and be a bell cow maybe in a couple years. But I don't need him in a couple years. I need somebody who can step in and play a flex spot for me now. So
Right.
the last move of the week is actually going to be Jason trading a free agent pickup in Cordero Patterson to Najee and the Jets for Tyler Boyd and a third rounder. I have some thoughts on that, but let's hear what you kind of think of that move.
I mean, it's a good trade for Jason. Again, he did well on this one. Cardell Patterson, he feels like a flash in the pan. He might have some nice games this year, but I don't think he's anyone you can really depend on, especially while Mike Davis is healthy. I don't ever even see him starting in that lineup with Najee and the Jets. So grabbing Tyler Boyd, a young wide receiver, and a pick, it's fine. It's nothing groundbreaking, but I think it is definitely a win for Jason.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Patterson's been Patterson for the last 10 years. Just truly, he's been a super interesting talent. He's a freak athlete, wide receiver, running back, great return man back in his early days. But I was kind of curious why the move was made on his part. I think Tyler Boyd's a super great flex piece. He's a young guy. He's coming up at the end of his deal, I believe, in Cincinnati. So either staying with Burrow is a great play regardless, but he could go off and be a wide receiver too somewhere else and really hit that target share you're looking for in the future. So Jason, well played again. That law school is really paying off in these last few moves he made. So
Yeah. I think about the moves that you and Najee both made this week, right? You traded for OBJ to kind of get some depth, some win now depth on your bench, and Najee traded for Cardell Patterson. I would rather have OBJ, and you gave up less than him than he gave up for Cardell Patterson.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like as maybe we're analyzing this foolishly, maybe Mike Davis gets hurt and Patterson takes a huge role for a few weeks, gives him a few wins. Maybe he has some information or thought process on how that pans out for him different than what we see. But either way, he wanted that depth over Tyler Boyd and he got it. So that's where we're at with that. So going into this week's matchups, I'm just going to kind of open up box score for each of them. My team versus Joe, Broken Step. I am projected to win 142 to 120. What is your thoughts and picks on this one?
Yeah, I mean, really, I don't expect you to lose to anybody except for maybe Najee and maybe Bordeaux, and you just beat Bordeaux and you're not playing Najee. I think Joe would have to hit his absolute ceiling, and you're probably hitting your floor for him to win. So I will go ahead and pick your team.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. The only thing that kind of concerns me this week is all the question marks, but it is some either young, talented guys who have heavy workloads that they're just being cautious on, or veterans that they're just being cautious on.
Yeah.
So as long as my question marks are just truly what they are, and just keeping people healthy during the week, then I don't see myself worrying about this at all. I have my team is just super top heavy. My starting lineup is one of the best in the league, hands down.
Yep.
But yeah, I picked myself as well. So we're on the same boat there. Going into your matchup, the Lonely Boys, Joel's team is playing you. What do you think you're going to do this week?
Man, the guys haven't really got it going yet. I think I've only had out of non QBs, I think I've had 2 guys out of 3 weeks so far score more than 20 points. So it just kind of depends. When do they get this show on the road here? So hopefully J Rob can get me off to a hot start tonight. That'd be nice. Joel shouldn't beat me most weeks, but anything can happen. So I'll say I win, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's close or even a loss.
Yeah. So I have you winning, but here's why. I think really what I kind of have noted is the bottom end of his flex plays are a lot weaker than yours. You're rolling out Mark Andrews up against Tanyan, who is not going to catch that many touchdowns. He's not going to catch, what was it, 20 or 50% of his balls were touchdowns last year. That's just not going to happen. He's rolling out Jacoby Myers, and that's a real dice roll in itself. That New England offense hasn't looked good against Tampa Bay. Ruggs hasn't done much besides his couple long bombs. Still nothing crazy. I just think that your team definitely has a much higher ceiling. And you don't even have to hit that to beat them. So I am going to give it to you. Next matchup, Najee and the Jets and Schneidi.
Yeah, Najee should blow him out here. Like I expect Najee to be competing for highest score of the week every week at this point. So unless he gets some injuries, I think the train left the tracks last week, and I don't know. I don't see it slowing down unless there's some injuries.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. I mean, projection wise, it looks a lot closer than I think it's gonna be. His top end talent on Schneider's team is beat up too. Julio's a little banged up. Hopkins didn't look like himself last week. And so how right could he finally get in one more week with how banged up he was? Jonathan Taylor hasn't really busted out and been who we want him to be either. So yeah, I think you should run away with it pretty handily. Going into Jason, the thoughts and prayers against Josh's team, battle of the tanks. What do you
Yeah.
kind of see happening here?
It's so funny to think of fourth string running backs team as a tanking team now, but they definitely are. Man, these are some ugly rosters right here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually, and unfortunately, I'm gonna pick thoughts and prayers. Reason being is that I think he might have the two best players outside. Like if you exclude quarterbacks, Saquon I think is probably the best player out of everyone else, and Michael Pittman might be the second player on that list out of everyone else.
Yeah. I am again gonna side with you. I know I'd like to differentiate our pick'ems for our record, but it's just kind of really hard in that sense. I just think that Josh has too many unproven players coming in. Mooney hasn't done much. Osborne hasn't done much. Marshall, he's rolling out those players that he's a year or two a little early on, I think.
Yeah.
But that's kind of his plan, and he's gonna probably pick up a few wins. Some of these guys are bound to hit every now and then, and he'll pick up some wins. But I do think Jason unfortunately lose the battle of the tanks and takes a W here.
Yeah.
Bordeaux and the Outlaws.
This should be Bordeaux like 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I don't think we need to really get into too much of that just because, I mean, looking at projections, it's double. I mean, 142 to 71, literally double. He's got some players on IR and COVID he's got to swap out. I don't think that changes anything, period. There's just no talent that can win now. Again, young players, he's just got to see a couple glimpses and feel good about these young guys he's getting for J-Rod. As long as he sees that, the L's are going to continue to come. He just needs to see those players show the promise for the next year and the year after that.
Yeah, this is a bye week for Bordeaux.
This may be where we have our split. This might be the one this week for us. We've been on the same page all of them so far, but this is the one. We have Zach making moves versus Stu LOLGG, a 3-0 and a 1-2, but on paper the closest this week. What do you see coming out of this?
Yeah, making moves keep proving me wrong. I keep saying that they're not a contender this year, and they keep throwing up high scores and they keep winning. But on paper, I still don't love the team. With that said, though, Stu let me down in a big way last week. So I'm gonna pick making moves this week.
Perfect. We do have the split then. Stu, buddy, don't let me down. You let me down last week. My reason is I mean, you're rolling out Ingram as one of your starters. I think that's a terrible decision. You're running into Tyler Lockett. He's a coin flip. He's either booming or busting. I just think in terms of the matchups, he has two players going up against Atlanta who lets a ton of points go through. He's got A-Rob who's in a get right spot. I just think this is where Stu finally has his team come online a little bit. Patrick Mahomes, he's going to have to score some points. I just think he's in a good spot overall. I think you can take this one from him. Really kind of knock Zach down a bit and give Stu a little bit of hopium going into the middle of the season. So
definitely.
Cool. So we split on that one. Hopefully I end up taking that going into next week and win on the pick'ems again. Anything else you want to touch base on in the league? I guess I could pull up the standings for us here. So people can see where everyone's sitting at. Making moves at the very top right now just because he's got more points for. Me and you sitting at 3-0. Couple at the bottom at 0-3, people you expect to see. What do you see coming out of Joe's team? He's sitting at 1-2. He hasn't really talked about making moves or anything. He's been open to it, but what do you kind
Yeah.
of see like shaking out here in the middle for the playoff race?
Man, I think Joe has one of the most underrated teams in the league. And I think
Mhm.
I've said it on maybe every podcast we have recorded. If he sold his running backs for some younger, talented assets, he could have such a nasty rebuild. His wide receiver room is nice. He's still got Lamar. He's young everywhere except running back, and those guys are like at their peak right now for what you're gonna get. Get him out of there, get younger, and then you don't have to. Then you can go AFK for 3 more years, and it kind of seems like Joe's going AFK right now. But yeah, he's gonna win some games. I mean, he's got a good squad.
Yeah, for sure. Going into this week, I think really these 2-1 and 1-2 teams, whatever direction you're going, you need it to hit that way this week. We're not quite at the pivot point of no return. The 0-3 teams are heading there pretty quickly.
Yeah,
But these middle of the pack teams, if they don't hit these next couple of weeks, we're gonna look at them all in a lot different light. It's gonna break the pack apart a bit in the next few podcasts. And
yeah.
I'm excited to see kind of where things shake up, especially if teams become sellers. Um, I think we could really see some moves happen. We can see some teams bolstering their lineups. Um, I'm excited. I mean, I've really enjoyed doing the podcast, getting to talk in depth about this stuff and look forward to giving that every single week.
Definitely. It's been a good time so far.
For sure.
Yeah, the top four teams here, I don't really see switching. The bottom three plus four strings running back are probably the bottom four. So it's sort of that middle four lonely boys. I would expect Najee and making moves probably to switch spots here. But lonely boys, Stu's team, Joe's team, and whoever and maybe making moves, maybe make the middle four here.
hmm
So
Yeah, no, we're shaking up for a really good season. I'm excited to see how things tend to pan out for us. But yeah, that's all I have for this week.
cool. Yeah. We'll go hot take of the week. I'm going to take Stefan Diggs over 25 points in our league. Get right,
Hot
spot.
take.
Come on, Stefan Diggs.
Yeah, I kind of called mine. I think it's on Stu's team. I think A-Rob's super underrated. He's playing my Detroit Lions, who have been bad for my entire life at this point. And so their secondary is destroyed. Their starters are on IR and their starters would be bench players elsewhere. So really A-Rob should get right and really hit that. He's projected 11.45. I really could see him hitting a 20-25 point bomb, catch a few good ones. So that's my call of the week, I would suppose.
All right. We'll take it. With that, that recaps episode 4 for us. Good luck to everybody this week. Stu, don't let me down again and actually win this week.
Thank Jesus, please.